It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step two, but we're back. It's been a long break. Season two kicks off. It's Bluebird on your shoulder. We're still calling it that too. So now we've decided to make some changes. So it'll be a little bit different. The ride will still be fun though. Sooner or later, we actually will have a possibly permanent. Well, maybe, probably seems down to join the band here and provide some contrast and conflicting opinion, and of course arguments with me because that's fun. Um, so at the end of the day, I'll try to keep it a little smoother ride, a little less tangenty. That's really hard. I'm in the room. I'm gonna do my best. I promise. But yeah, we're gonna do the we're like what for 4 days, 5 days was the 15th, so we're 5 days out from 1 year mark. Being that the inauguration is January 20th every year, or well, every whatever. So it's already felt like first year was 7 years, so we only got till I'm 67 to go. Um, but yeah, so we're basically gonna you talk about a couple of modern or yeah, modern modern things. Because he definitely has put us back in 1912, so other things feel modern now. But yeah, a year in a review, and I think we're going to kick it off with economy.
Yeah. So, as promised from one of the first episodes, I think we did it a week before inauguration. We had talked about some of his first term numbers and policies and tariffs and things like that, that we said that we would revisit to try to see what's what. Has he had success or failure? And then I got to deep diving into some of this and realized that there will probably people that will try to argue that it's still Biden's economy. So typically in a new administration, roughly the first 2 years are the previous administration's numbers, until those new policies take effect, is the average. However, when you do things like tariffs and some of the things that he's done, it is no longer that previous, the effects that those tariffs have had um, are no long, those numbers that come in are no longer the previous administration's numbers that are solely this administration's numbers. So then I decided to go and do comparative to see, because I got into pretty good conversation with someone about economies being more or less successful under certain parties. So I went all the way back to George H.W. Bush,
Herbert
um,
Walker.
because I felt like that was at our age, we're in our mid 40s. That's the first president in our childhood that I remember things happening from. Like, I don't remember, Reagan, Carter, Ford, any of that. That was right up until, when we were coming out the womb. So I did Bush. Um, and I can just start there with jobs added. And these are totals like at the end of their administration. Bush won. Josh, if you want to pull those up so that
Oh yeah.
people that are watching can see these. Um, it looks like about 2.6 million. I should have worn my glasses. Um, and then I'd like to preface, I have mixed feelings about Clinton's numbers because I feel like he very much benefits from the economic boom that the internet boom caused. And we can get into that in a couple of topics later. But he had over 25 million jobs added. And then we go ahead.
I think that wouldn't that be relationary to the fact he's also coming off seven and a quarter, 730 basis points of unemployment.
Could be.
So yeah, I mean, picking up 3%. I mean, I don't know what the per capita population or the cap population was back then. 2/3 of what it is now, like close to 200 million. So
Right.
probably looking at just under like 1.8 million unemployed, just rough guess. So I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe a dot-com boom for sure.
The came from the labor and statistics. So I mean, these were their final numbers. So I don't know, you know, if there was a population boom or you know what I mean, um,
Fake
but
news.
there was Bush two, who only did a little over 2 million added, and then Obama over. It looks like I really should have wore my glasses. Like 15 million.
11.4 million.
Okay, thanks. And then Trump comes in at a loss of over
2.7.
2.7. Thanks. And then Biden, who didn't do anything, and his economy was absolutely terrible, way worse than Trump's first administration, was over 34 million jobs added.
14.6.
14.6.
This is
Who
literally.
is your eye doctor?
So then Trump, the first year to date, I pulled these numbers on Tuesday, so they could have changed a little bit. But for the first year, I believe it was like 584,000.
You did good on
Yeah.
that one. Proud of you there. So it's interesting stuff though. Like I'll counterpoint some of these. So I know that Biden 14.6, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. However, it's making reemployment. Saying his economy didn't contribute. I'm not trying to go that far, but I will give the caveat people did lose their
So
job.
so that's the thing, is that you got to remember that it wasn't just that it's not just people that were reemployed. Most people didn't lose their jobs. They just,
Furloughed.
yeah, they were furloughed. So that didn't count towards that number when
Okay,
they
Well,
fair.
went back, when
that's one
they, so
of the problems.
that's not considered an added job.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've had issues with when they release like what the unemployment rate is.
Right.
They don't ever. It's always a skewed number because they don't ever take into effect the people that left the job market.
Right.
You know,
Oh, like
like
retired.
stop that or stopped looking for work because there
Stop
wasn't.
looking. Yeah.
So they
Yeah. It
Wow.
only unemployment only tracks people that are looking for work, that are either
on the
claiming unemployment
yep,
or are on the books as looking for work.
right.
So
That's actually the next column comparison was unemployment rate, and that was the average of their tenure. So Bush one was 7.3%. And then Clinton's was a little over 4%. Then you got Bush Jr., I'll just call him, went to, I believe, like 7.5%.
yep.
So it was pretty high on that one. Obama dropped down to 4.7, so he shaved off basically 3%. And then Trump jumped up to 6.3.
Yep.
Biden got it back down to 4.3, and that was
Okay.
after coming off the pandemic.
And yeah, that's where you really have to look at that. Was 14.6 million jobs. We could say that those were
Right.
just people going back to work, but that wouldn't have contributed to a 2-point drop in unemployment,
Yeah,
Right.
which was
220 basis point
which
drop
Well, and
which
then
he hit, what, like the lowest unemployment percentage in
since
what, like,
Clinton.
since Clinton. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
And
25
at one
years.
point it was like 3.8 or something like that.
Yeah, so really interesting there.
yeah, and
And
then
definitely 4.6 for current Trump.
right,
So I have a curious question here. I didn't look at these numbers before, because he didn't have the screen big enough, and I also have a bad eye doctor. So but 7.3, 7.4, 6.3, and 4.6 and rising.
Right.
4.6 and
right.
rising. administration.
And let's also remember that we don't actually have current numbers because
Well, we don't do that. We
because
don't
we
do that.
yeah, we I
No,
guess
we
we
don't.
don't
too
do
much.
numbers anymore.
We don't do that in the
Yeah.
Ministry of Magic does not do that. Okay,
Right.
we
Yep.
won't allow it.
Um.
Hold on though. But
Go.
so my real curious question here is just knowing what I know about some of the relative differences. I wonder if those jobs are federal.
So
You want to know how
um
for federal?
Yeah,
I
how many of the unemployment marks for the Republican administrations are federal from them trying to shrink the bureaucracy, otherwise known as fire the people investigating us? But we won't talk about that. Real
I-
quick side note: Elon come out in an interview and said if he could do it again, he would not join Joe Doge, and but he did because it destroyed his companies.
that's just because he needs to
We
distance
had a
himself. That's why they've let him. Did you also
people
hear
that
about
were
the
investigating him.
uh,
did you also hear about the like straight up racist comment that he made?
And he does that
Where
on Tuesdays.
what
I
was
was gonna say
that?
which one.
Yeah, no, it was just this week. Shit.
Yeah, I probably saw it on Twitter.
That's all right.
All right. So
Uh,
manufacturing net loss gain. So manufacturing jobs, we're solely talking about blue collar,
yep.
coal. Like so, manufacturing. Are we dealing with miners? Are we dealing with oil field workers? Are we only dealing with assembly plants,
It
pipelines?
referenced factory.
Okay.
So I mean, what at one time was literally, well, at least what Trump still touts is the heart and soul of the country, and that he's going to bring all these jobs back. And as we talked about last year, when he said the tariffs would cause the jobs to come back, and they didn't. Um, if you just look at the column, there are losses everywhere except two columns that just happen to be Democrats. Clinton was one who had net gains. Um,
And one thing about Obama's 300,000, number one, it's a low one of the lower numbers. Um, but it's also you also have to remember that the college initiatives that were done during that time period,
sure,
in order to get people better paying jobs, and the I will actually give Bush a little bit here. Bush two with the 12.5 million loss. That was right after, NAFTA and kind of this globalization explosion happened where a lot of our manufacturing shipped over to China and stuff like that.
it it did.
So,
A lot of it did.
yeah.
So kind of happens when you push a shady bill through on Christmas Eve at midnight.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so just not real good history of that. Like over the years, and I would say the internet has, and technology has a lot to do with that. But even previous presidents prior to the internet had job losses. I just didn't include all of them.
So
Um,
is that loss gain jobs? So 614,000 jobs, 178,000 jobs.
the ones that are in red are losses.
Well,
The
I understand.
yeah, so those are gains.
Uh, red
Um,
light means stop, green light means
yeah,
go.
yeah,
I guess the interesting part is like so Trump claims often like I'm rebuilding, bringing back the manufacturing, and I'm bringing back the manufacturing, and there are GDP numbers that support that. However, your nifty little sheet you made here, which is educating me, says Biden added 614,000 jobs in that sector. So is he the one that brought it back, or is he just that's reaping the benefits from it?
not
I don't know, right? Like I don't know. I'm not. This is not my cup of tea, right? Um. So, but I just find that growth right to be really interesting, and I also find Bush's manufacturing loss of 12.5 fucking or yeah, that's 12.5 million.
yeah,
That that's lunacy, and
Well, think
24% unemployment rate.
actors that left and went to Mexico.
Was the NAFTA, the
Yeah.
NAFTA relief? Okay, so that might actually
Yeah,
be Clinton's fault.
Yeah. So,
That might actually be his
well,
fault.
that
yeah.
I mean, that's when it got passed. Was they passed it through on Christmas Eve and midnight of the last year of
You did
his
just say
right
that.
before Bush came in.
You
Like,
did say that.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
so a lot of people, including me, didn't correlate that. Um,
sure.
they know what NAFTA is, and if they don't, they can Google it or AI it.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so
and and one thing that we have to remember is that we can blame Clinton for that, but it was also a Republican Congress that
It was.
actually put it together and passed
well,
it.
I mean,
So
let's be honest. In the moment, everybody a good idea. Well, not everybody, but like the powers thought it was a good idea. Like,
yeah,
I do remember.
The intent of that
I
bill,
remember senior.
I don't think
Oh,
anybody foresaw everyone leaving for it.
yeah. So
well,
well,
and
so
I think
yeah,
that there's a lot of demonization for globalization and trade, but honestly, it's one of the reasons why America. That's probably why you see 450,000 manufacturing jobs were added because we went ahead and pumped out a whole bunch, and then as globalization spread out and our manufacturing companies decided that it was cheaper to go overseas and basically give away our
Right.
manufacturing power.
yeah, capitalism.
So
Well, there,
exactly right.
So
even
yeah,
like and quite a few companies that have come back, but it's not to the numbers that make it in green. They're
Well,
still the loss, but
yeah,
they took out these amount of numbers and it's like you talked about on the market, like they want to say, oh, it's the first time ever that it's at this, but what about the losses before that? Still, like, is exponential to the point that it's still some of those losses are still operating at a loss and haven't been made back yet.
yeah.
It's like he's
well,
talking about $2,000 tariff checks that there's not enough money from the revenue of the tariff to kick out for the amount of people that qualify for it.
Yeah.
might be there. Okay, so I'm here for that. So the economic growth percentage.
So this was the overall number at the end of their term. Uh,
National debt. I'm talking about the economic growth. Two columns left.
economic growth, yeah,
So that was their growth GDP.
yeah, the real GDP. It was their what it basically what their average was at the end of their term. So over the course of the 4 to 8 years. Um, so Bush one was at 1.8, and then Clinton was at 4%, which I believe is the largest of those.
Yeah.
Bush two's 2.5%. Obama 2.5%. I thought I was very surprised about that.
Yeah.
Because of the way his soared there for a while, but then the last 2 to 3 years, I guess, didn't help him because it definitely retracted quite a bit those few years. And
Oh, he
then
got eight too.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like them first four, and then the last few, like it probably averaged out. But I guess overall, it's been very similar over the last outside of Clinton. Everyone's right around 2, 3 ish. And, of course, Cheeto wants to tout that he has the largest economic growth in history. So I found that pretty funny. So
He
it's just,
does on his toe.
yeah.
So no, I think at the end of the day, in a lot of ways, like yeah, so it's steady, right? Like, and when the possibilities for us to grow economically are more limited now, we're outpaced in high economic areas like tech,
Yeah.
um, paced by other countries. which if you would look at like, you know, cumulative math test scores in the late 90s, you saw that coming.
Right.
Um, so, and yeah, I don't think that their growth is like something to write home about. What I am seeing a trend in Clinton, though, is that, you know, saxophones and slick willies in the boardroom are good for business.
Right.
That's in here, seeing good for business. I remember Bill. So,
Yeah.
um, a GDP growth is interesting though. Like it's real. And I don't want to fault that. Like it matters, and it matters in ways that most average people will never ever understand.
Sure.
Um, However, it doesn't directly correlate to the average American because they think with their bank accounts and their bills,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
as a far now, your big time farmers, they understand the GDP and how important it is.
Oh,
So because they're the number one contributors to it, right?
Right.
But your average Joe that's going to work one of the manufacturing jobs that got lost, they don't really give a shit about the GDP because it doesn't change their check, and that's where like it's consistent. You brought up the tariff checks, which you know I know that his cap is all yes men, right? But Scott, what Bessent, the secretary,
yeah.
um, he did say that the money is there to do the checks. I don't know if that's real or not. But he said it's there. But and then he also is a little pissed off about what's happening to Jerome Paul, our pal.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, so it's interesting to see one of his cabinet members out against him too. So he's probably gonna get fired soon.
right.
Um, but I don't know. And then I see you have trade deficit numbers, and those are billion dollar trade deficits. Well, is that a B at the end?
Yeah. That is that is what the trade deficit was at the end of their term.
At
We're
the end of
always
their
gonna
term,
have.
that's not the average.
What's that?
That's not the average.
I'm pretty sure it's what it was at the end of.
We're all that. The thing about that is, I'd be interested to see how Clinton did it, but I might dive into that. But we're always going to have a trade deficit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
You,
part of like people talk about it. That's one of their big talking points at the beginning of the year, right? Like we're going to equalize the trade. You can't equalize the trade deficit with the number one consumer country.
no, I
And that
understand. Just was pointing out, like, if you can see, well, I guess it was more so the national debt, but, he out everything being good. And the only person in our lifetime who had on the plus was Clinton. So, everybody's taking it a loss to on the trade deficit.
Will say that I hate to do this, but I do. So at 29.4, if we expounded that over four, he's only looking at 120 billion, which is far better than this trade deficit, which does to the tariffs are bringing money in.
Yeah. No,
Um,
he does have some
so
categories that he's performing well in, which is why I still included that category, even
I
though
appreciate that.
he thumbs up in that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be subjective to it. Like, there's no point in that. Um, but then you can see in the very next column with the national debt of, I mean, we all know, especially this year, I mean, what, 4 trillion in a year,
yeah.
So I'd be
basically.
really interested to see the national debt adjusted,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
adjusted for inflation, and see
Hmm.
where the real numbers are for each president. You know what I'm saying? So because they
Yep.
look grand, but then if you adjust for inflation, those are going to come down a little bit.
Yeah, which is actually
Um,
column is inflation. And I noticed that over the course of our lifetime and reports that I've read being in the industry I'm in, year over year, the average national inflation is 3%
Yep.
on it. So
yeah, I
if
know. That's
if
why a
it
lot of companies give 3% merit increases to go
Right.
yeah,
with the cost of living.
right. Yep. Yep. So then I know Ryan, you said you're going to touch on immigration a little bit and deportations, which was my next column, so I won't go over that too much. But for the people that can see it, I did break it out and separate legal deportations, which took court action, and then hash marked it and put voluntary, which includes self-deportation and deportations that did not require legal action. So
Catching kicks.
Overall, Obama and Biden both have more than Trump. Obama by quite a bit, and we're at around 2.5 million total for Trump this year. So that's quite a bit for 1 year, in my opinion. Whether those numbers, I just don't understand how they can calculate. Trying to calculate how many people came across the border,
Their average is 1.9 self-deported. So
yeah,
that's where they come up with that. But I don't trust numbers from the Trump administration. I really don't.
sure.
So I'll feel you on that. Pardons? You did pardons?
So I just, I've noticed he's been, how many J6 people has he pardoned and stuff like that. So I decided to add that because I was like, this should be interesting to look back on.
Yeah.
Bush has one of the lowest ever.
Can't let nobody go.
77 total over 4 years. Clinton was over 450. And then you start getting into some bigger numbers. Obama had 5,000 something, or I'm sorry,
2,000 almost.
Yeah. But over 1,500 of that was because he basically let people out and commuted their sentences for extreme minor crimes that they were given abnormal lengthy sentences for.
Right. Yeah, like, people that had, an 8-ball on them and they gave them 20 years.
Right. So, but then when you look at these numbers and then realize that this year Trump has who is just under 1,500 for the year.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit.
I don't hate any of this. That's 4,200 people. He was letting everybody
4,200 for Biden. Those were almost all weed sentences.
That probably he was responsible for when he was in Congress in the 90s of locking people up. But
things change. Things change.
Yeah, true. And then the last one I added on there because I keep seeing all these articles come across my computer at work of another United States based company going. So there was just a list of that. And this year alone, we have just under 32,000 United States companies. These are corporations, mom and pop shops. Right here in our country, almost 32,000 this year have filed for bankruptcy.
And that's half the amount of the total number during Biden's administration that included all of the ones that went under during COVID.
Right. So then I was breaking some stuff down because, okay, we get through the boring numbers of all of that. And that's kind of the gist of a lot of talking points and major topics of economic numbers that they like to lean on and talk about to promote their policies. So 10 of the last 11 recessions are under a Republican administration.
Yep.
A recession, for those of you who don't know, is a negative economic growth for 3 quarters in a row before it is actually deemed a recession. Some Democratic policies that Democrats have done over the years that Republican stances were opposed on, just to try to show what kind of people are on that side. These were all opposed by Republicans.
Smoking indoors?
Smoking indoors was opposed by Republicans.
I'm a smoker and I oppose that shit too.
Yeah.
But Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, 40-hour work week, minimum wage, VA, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act. Well, yeah, why would the minorities and women be allowed to vote?
Yeah.
That's fucked up. They're screaming about that again. So they oppose all of those.
Yeah. So then there was, okay, so in reference to the red states, um, of the bottom 10 US states, um, the worst economy, it looks like there was 8 out of 10 were Republican.
9.
The most impoverished, there was,
9
okay,
out of 10.
were Republican. Um, Worst education,
8 out of 10.
were Republican. Worst infrastructure,
8 out of 10.
Republican. Help me out here.
Poorest,
Forest.
9 out of 10.
Yep, and that was like overall poorest. Crime, 7 out
7
of,
out of 10.
and
Happiness.
overall happiness, um, was 9 out of 10. That means of the bottom 10 states in the country, those were all, so many of them, Republican. So it's, I just
So
really
they
under,
were the least happy states.
yeah,
Okay.
I just really
Yeah,
don't
that one got me too, bro. Because I was like, wait, you
I
got
was like, ignorance is
like
bliss.
so. Yeah, I was gonna say so. Like, I can be poor and hate my life and not have new underwear and can't be educated enough to read and have people shooting me all the time, but I'm gonna be all right about
and then
it.
in term for this year under Trump, housing is the most expensive it's ever been. Cars, groceries, um, I mean, just a list of things that are just off the chain expensive, but he wants to tout the affordability that everything's great, and I guess when you look at all those numbers and realize what's what and that it is subjective or objective, I don't understand why people who make less than $400,000 a year continue to vote against their best interests.
Well, it goes to that education. 9 out of
Yeah.
10.
No.
So
So okay. So
okay.
the boring stuff
I'm really good. That's I mean, it's overall it's a lot of fuck stick.
sure is.
A lot of talk, no walk, no action, no numbers that back it up. However, numbers are fake news if they don't tell the story we want.
That's true.
So they're not real numbers, they're liberal numbers. Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't know why you brought a bunch of liberal numbers on here
I know.
from
And then
these
they'll
liberal
try to,
organizations that are currently
where'd you
banned
get?
by Trump. So it's a wild reality they live in, but I think you have some solid proof in the pudding. There are some interesting things in here that I'm definitely going to deep dive later because I
Oh,
really want to know what Clinton was actually doing. And if we could replicate that. So because it looks like he did some shit, and I was in an interesting time in my life during Clinton, so um, so some strange times back then. So I'm going to take a look at that. So, but really good economic breakdown. All in all, there are a couple of things that he has done well. The trade deficit being one of them,
yeah.
and I will put that out there. But pretty much everything else is poo poo caca. Oh yeah, and getting people to like deport and get deported. So he's doing okay at that
Well,
too.
and if you compare his
Started off real slow though.
ah,
So really interesting there. So we've also had a lot interesting military changes come
yeah,
in the past year. So why don't you get into those there?
Yeah, so last season we talked a lot about kind of my concerns about the increase in budget. We increased to $831 billion. Um, we also saw them announce a plan for 20% troop reduction. And those two numbers, kind of going in the opposite way, doesn't really make sense to me when we're so secure or when we're so concerned about our security. And then I looked at kind of what we're doing militarily on the ground, where we've expanded troop deployments and where we've contracted, and that was probably the most concerning part of it. Um, with about 1 million total troops in our arsenal, a 20% reduction is a lot. And but we've also been scaling back troops in Eastern Europe all across with no plan in reinforcing or um, replacing. And basically, that's to tell Europe that they need to do it themselves. Um, we saw, what was it? We saw troop deployments in with the Navy most of all, and there's one other place where we saw a lot of growth in troop deployments, and that was on U.S. soil. We saw 120,000 troops mobilized against Americans this year,
Yeah.
and I was super surprised to see the number be that large. Um, and when we're looking at kind of where we're putting our eggs, we've got Venezuela going on. Both Venezuela and we are all gearing up for an armed conflict on the ground. They've called up 1 million troops, militia and stuff like that they're arming, and we're slowly increasing our presence and prepping for deployment. We've got I think a
For
couple. What's that?
Venezuela.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got a couple brigades that are doing train ups for that. Um, and then and then we've got supposedly plan to deploy troops into Mexico for uh,
All
to
that.
slow down drugs and stuff like that. But Mexico's still 100% against that. There's a plan to deploy to Gaza to secure the Gaza Strip,
The
which
golf
basically,
course.
yeah, basically is to move in and take over development. Um, and then um, we've got 170 billion that we've sent over to Ukraine over since the beginning of that war, and we've allocated 850 million for this year. So we are sending a decent amount of equipment and munitions over there for the um, for that conflict.
Yeah. Let's preface that these are not wads of cash we are sending over in duffel.
No. That is actual equipment. That's
Yeah.
just the dollar amount attached to it. Um, and then yeah, the the talking points on these are hilarious, but the biggest thing that we really need to think about is kind of how our policies that we're using and the State Department, how they're interacting with countries. The chance of us in a prolonged engagement with the the current axis of evil, if you will, um, would be Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela.
Yep.
Um, that's a conflict that would destroy the world. So
Yeah.
and,
That
and
that right there kind of reminds me of a column I actually did miss, is that Trump is the first president in history to have the United States of America on not only a human rights watch list for the first time ever, but we are now on a genocide watch list.
we've also withdrawn from 60 different UN
Yeah.
and NATO groups, um, which basically is one of the other reasons why we're starting to hit those lists because we're not keeping ourselves off of it.
Well,
Um,
and have all but threatened a NATO country.
yeah, well, we we have threatened a NATO country. Greenland is
No.
Greenland is on the table as another way that we could isolate ourselves. I think that's the biggest story there is if we deploy to Greenland, we're going to take it, but we're going to permanently damage and we're already permanently damaging these relationships with European countries you know that
Yeah,
we've been hailed as the saviors
several,
for almost 100 years.
there have been several European countries that have already sent troops and supplies and things like that to Greenland, and in anticipation of us going.
Yeah. I mean, that I think that's more of a um that's more of a message to Americans, that, it's not just some rock that, we can go and plant a flag on,
Well,
that
yeah,
there's actually consequences for it.
yeah. I mean, it's all part of the NATO treaty that it's been all general consensus in that treaty that if you threaten one NATO country, you threaten them all.
Right. Yep. And they're beefing up the only military base that's there on Greenland. Um, so but I think that one is something that we don't really need to worry about too much as far as the what could happen there militarily. It's the economic impacts and the isolation that's going to cause us with our allies when we're looking at um, a multi-front conflict that takes up the world.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other things that I went over was like um, the the DHS budget, because it was my focus was on our military policy and budgeting and things like that, where we're looking at conflict and then security for America, and DHS is part of that security. They've allocated 165 billion for the next decade, with 43.8 billion this year alone. Um,
Jeez.
and that is going to bring a militarization of DHS and Homeland Security and ICE that we've never seen. That includes about 10,000 new positions within DHS and ICE. Um, and while I was looking through that, I thought about the expansion there, but the other areas where we're contracting, and we're contracting. We contracted about 1,500 jobs out of the VA last year, and we contracted 2,500 jobs out of the IRS last year. So that's 5,000 jobs that were, or yeah, right? No, 4,000 jobs. Thank you. 4,000 jobs that we've lost out of the VA serving our veterans and the IRS tax collection, which most of the IRS is focused on large tax fraud. Any of your auditors and things like that, they typically only work with large companies because that's where the most tax fraud happens.
Yeah, I wonder why that was done.
So that's basically the snapshot that I came up with. It's really concerning the agitation that we're causing with, you know,
everyone.
countries that we're allies with, Canada, Mexico, are direct neighbors, NATO, and then um, the where we're kind of poking and trying to show force that we didn't need to show with China, Russia, um, Venezuela. So and then also the war crimes. The we've killed I think like 120 people without due process because of that their because their boats looked like they could have drugs on them.
Yeah.
Um, there's been zero proof, and except for the proof that Pete Hegseth ordered people who were um, unarmed and unable to fight to be executed. And then we snatched a world leader out of his bed. So
What they were brown.
yeah,
So I think one of the interesting things you said is we've never seen the militarization of federal policing forces like that. And you're correct, federally. However, anybody that's kind of, bit older, we have seen it before. So Bush too spent a ton of money giving it to local police forces and state police forces and city police forces, and we watch the militarization of our police forces happen. Um, all the military vehicles that they ended up buying, and the I mean, so now it's really common, to see cops drive crazy cars, but like just look at the Georgia State Police. They have like 30 Hellcats.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I'm saying? These are $100,000 vehicles. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So 30 Hellcats with GSP, that was all how they used to do it, right? So, and we saw the results of that, right? So there's a historical reference point that level of militarization of the policing had negative consequences on the civilian population. It
we
didn't
did,
increase the
there
safety.
was kind of there was rationalization around it with the proliferation of military style weapons being um being brought out into the public. They're starting to see those more and more where, the smaller submachine guns and things like that were pretty rare. We started seeing a lot more AKs. We started seeing the M4s and things like that come out. So to
I think I think in a way you could justify some of that though, because as civilian cars get faster, the police need faster.
please, right,
As
right.
So,
have
yeah, so
assets.
I think in the
Ryan's
modern,
also going to be talking about, the fact that as the military or as you see a militarization of a police force, you see gangs start to carry higher caliber weapons. They buy armor piercing rounds and things like
Well,
that. Which the NRA is not necessarily opposed to seeing those sales go up. So
well, why would we? Because that's more
yeah,
money for the coffers. So no, it's
exactly.
really interesting. And yeah, I'm not saying there's no reason for it, right? Or
Yeah, yeah.
there's absolutely no reason anywhere. I'm just saying that brown people flew planes into our buildings, or maybe depends on who you talk to. And then we wanted to give the police military style stuff. I agree with you that like if you got to chase Hellcats, you need Hellcats,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Because like people may not understand that they say you can't outrun the radio and you can't outrun the helicopter. Well, the Hellcat can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it actually can.
because
So because it's that
saying, oh,
fucking.
he's getting off on exit, whatever. He's already off on another exit and he's gone.
I mean, I read a story about cops in Rhode Island. His gun, said 210, and he didn't see anything, and it was nighttime, and he radioed like, I don't know what's wrong with my gun. Like it just said 210, and a cop like 8 miles down the road was like, mine just said 206.
Oh yeah, he was running with
And he was
night
running
vision.
a custom powder blue Lamborghini with night vision goggles on.
Yeah.
and he had it maxed out. And like the cops realized, no, there's really somebody out there going that fast. So just saying, 10 out of 10, I would try it.
Well, yeah, the newest Corvette that's coming out goes 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds now.
Bro, nobody wants to talk about Walmart supercars.
Whoa,
Um,
wow,
so sorry, it's the way it is.
whatever.
That is definitely a pretty ass fucking vehicle right there. I wouldn't want one. They're not my style of supercar, but
Yeah, me
that's
neither.
that's pure rugged American muscle right there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will give it that.
Uh,
So yeah, we've definitely seen some military stuff. I think the war crimes part's really important. That we have and some of the other stuff you said, we've gone from being the standard bearer to being unbearable.
yeah,
And I think one of the things you didn't bring up, like you brought up how we're pissing people off and we're upsetting people, but so one of the most coveted intelligence alliances out there is the Five Eyes, which is Australia, England, us, Canada, and there's another country I can't remember. And it's the best
Israel?
intel. I don't think it's Israel. I think it's France or Germany.
Oh.
But they're considered the five best intelligence gathering countries in the world. Now, of course, they're going to say that in our world, and then China and Russia say they're better, but whatever. I don't know. But those five share information.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did what we did with Maduro, England has now openly said we're no longer sharing our intelligence in that region with you anymore
Yep.
because we cannot be held as an accessory to your crime.
Yep.
right.
And that is wild that circa post Revolutionary War, our best friend, we were their subjects. We beat the shit out of them. They became our subjects. And now they're like, we're not doing this with you anymore. Like, you've really become the kid that people can't fuck with. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
America has become the kid down the street your parents warned you about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, and we'll get into that. I'm not shocked that it's happened. I'm shocked at the amount of people who openly support it.
Right.
I'm not. There's quiet supporters, and that wouldn't shock me. The people who are openly like, yes, I voted for this.
Right.
What? The amount of people who have come out and said, yeah, I did not vote for this. Whoops. That doesn't shock me either.
Right.
I'm like, well, we did try to tell you, but okay, cool,
Right.
whatever. It happened. That works.
Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely some deportation going on, right? And I think you put the numbers out there, and a lot of people saw them, and I don't necessarily have to go through all the numbers, right? Like Bill Clinton, 864 estimated. Bush one, Bush two, 2 million. Barack 3 to 4. They're not even sure it was so many. Considered the guy. And had the highest annual. Trump's first term was 1.5, 1.2. Biden was 1.5 to remove, right? So not the other won't give us those since he took over, probably because it makes him look real bad. And yeah, he brought his little sheep. And then Trump is like it. So 300,000 projected deportations, and then like 1.9 million projected self deportations. Come up with his
Yeah.
2.5,
Weird.
and it.
The year to date, and then Trump and Biden's previous terms didn't have the split out like the president. So maybe they just don't have that yet.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see you while I'm sharing the screen.
Well, Ryan Long,
Did he freeze up?
he might have holding. Ah, there's sound.
Yeah, I
Yep.
lost my audio. Definitely.
Hello.
My audio. Hello. So yeah, so no, I didn't hear a word you said, but I believe you're probably right. No, they didn't have the split out because he doesn't want you to know that part. He doesn't want you to know he's not actually catching them. So
Oh,
here's
I
my
mean, from what I do remember, the numbers, at least at like 6 months or something like that, were not that great. Like
they were not.
the
Right.
ramp up that they had was not showing results. You know,
Yeah.
at least for catching. I think a lot of it was the amount of people that they've deported that had criminal history was
Very low.
actually under
It's
what most.
it's still minuscule.
Yeah.
Um,
Um and then even the amount of people that they had to bring back because they were illegally
Right.
deported was
well,
was really
I think there's some sects of this that are really important. So there's a really big push in the dummy parade about, well, you only care because it's Trump, and you didn't care when it was Obama, and you didn't care when it was Biden, and you didn't care then, and you didn't care here. And it's not that we didn't care. You can drop that. It's not that we didn't care. It's
yeah.
the
and
manner in
and
which it's being done.
yeah, exactly
Like,
right.
yeah,
And
they
that's
deported
what I
all
keep
of
saying.
those people, but they weren't raiding 80 strong in the middle of a city in America. They
The
were
way in
using
which we
they
conduct ourselves is more important than the results. And I'm
correct.
sick of people trying to make the case that the result justifies the means. That's never been what any good story has had a point for. Like it's never it's never that we did something great. It's how we did something great.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to support, like I've always said, like even my gosh, like even some of the worst presidents in history, like at least they were presidential.
Right.
Like we all know the second Bush was dumber than a box of rocks, but at least he was presidential.
And he genuinely loved America and Americans, you know.
And at least
So
he could have a speech where he sounded intelligent enough and genuine enough that he united the country when we were attacked.
Yeah.
yeah, it's the manner in which we I think you kill it. It's the
Right.
manner in which we conduct ourselves, right? And it's your stormtroopering
Mm-hmm.
and Gestapoing. You're literally stopping people in the middle of American cities telling them to show you their papers. That's the most Gestapo thing ever. And people can say, well, that's not good Gestapo. Literally is what
Well,
Literally.
they did. Literally is what the brown shirts did. Literally is what the SS did. Literally is what the Gestapo did.
well,
Show me your papers because they want you to prove you're not Jewish.
People
and,
need to start reading some Anne Frank.
yeah,
I'm
and
telling you.
you know the bird-legged hoe that she is, um, is now saying
And Frank?
no, dude, no, me is now saying that we need to show evidence that we're a U.S. citizen, and let's not forget that
No,
the
the
third
fuck I don't.
the Third Reich didn't start with murders.
They
No.
didn't start with ovens.
No, it didn't. It didn't. And it's I'm not trying to go that road. That parallel exists. I'm just trying to go the road that like what I can see on TV myself and not even on TV. That you will live in a world where it's all there now.
24/7.
Everybody has cameras. Everybody's recording. The cameras are fucking 12 fold. The little camcorder we used to walk around with back in the day, right? 300 fold that. Like cameras are almost better than fucking telescopes. Like, and we see it clearly with our own eyes. This is what is really happening. This is what you're really doing. You got Bovino, the understudy of Christy von Himmler, and he's going and doing a photo shoot and putting a fucking SS style jacket on that says ICE on it because they're buying into it. And the reason that they're buying into it is what you were saying. Like the reason that this is happening and it's all performative because the results are not coming from it. It's all performative and fear. They want to make us afraid, and then they don't know what to do when we're not afraid and we stand up to them.
Yeah.
And you have people lining the streets of Minnesota, of all places, going in the dead of winter.
In the dead
It
of Minnesota winter.
it cold as fuck up there, and people are standing up. Do you know what's going to happen this spring and summer when it gets warm outside? I just saw a guy on the internet that said he lives 45 minutes away in a cushy suburb in a nice house. He's got a great job. He's in his late 40s. He's never protested anything in his life. And he said, I'm sitting here watching this shit on the internet day after day after day, getting pissed the fuck off. Because the other problem and the other number I want to bring up is 2.5% of people being detained are American citizens. ICE does not have any authority over a United States citizen who is not actively breaking a law.
Yep.
I don't have to show you shit. I don't have to get out of my car for you. I don't have to, because you are not the police. You are immigration police. I am a citizen. I don't need to prove shit to you. And you
Yep.
have no right to ask me to prove shit
Nope.
to you.
They don't even have normal policing powers.
No, because
Like,
they do get, and this is where the argument, I wanted to point this out specifically. If you are currently breaking a federal law, they do gain policing powers over you. They can detain you, but they're supposed to transfer you
right,
to an appropriate agency to
right,
handle that. So they can
right,
detain you, but they can't actually arrest you.
right.
They have to hand you over to the FBI,
Yeah.
or whatever. There's other apparatus involved in that. But you are failing at your job, and then you're putting on a theater sideshow. And what I want to know is, I know there's a bunch of ICE agents who, like, they're saying, oh no, they go through rigorous training. Yeah, I've seen the videos of them handling a weapon. Okay. I don't know anybody who goes through rigorous training that holds it like this. I know lots of dudes who went through street training that hold it like that. But I don't know nobody who went through rigorous training that holds it like that, right? You're literally
Mhm.
pointing at somebody with your finger on the trigger. That's
Mhm.
101, right? Like, if you go to a gun store and go to purchase a handgun and you're doing the inspection of it and you put your finger on the trigger where it's pointed to somebody, they're going to take it from you and not sell it to you
Yeah.
because you don't understand the basic tenets of firearms. That rule number one is you always act like it's loaded.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but they're failing miserably and putting on this theater show, detaining United States citizens. You're kidnapping
Deporting
people.
some United States
Yeah,
citizens.
they've done that. You're kidnapping people. Ultimately, if you are ICE and they are not breaking the law and you detain them, it is kidnapping.
Yep.
If they are United States citizens. The other thing I find very overwhelmingly interesting: Chicago, LA, now Minnesota. Just spent a week in Charlotte. Charlotte's the South.
Yeah.
They were 3 days in before Betty Sue came out in her romper with the
Yeah.
curlers still in her hair, with her fucking pistol on her,
Hey, get off my yard.
and said, "Get the fuck out of my yard." All of a sudden, we don't want to be down here no more. We don't want to
Yeah.
go no more. Like, so most of the actual illegal immigrants are probably on the southern half of the United States, right? That's probably just, I don't know that for a fact, but it
It's
makes
where the
sense to
crops
me.
are.
Right.
That's where,
Well, it's where the
the
border is that they come from.
right.
So,
the the regulations for building and work is a lot less strict. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
there's a lot of reasons
right.
why those
That's where they're
areas.
gonna be, but you're not there. Why are you? Because you're scared.
No, it's because they want to go into democratic cities
Yes.
Yeah.
and intimidate. That's
So
what they're there
that's
for.
part A, but the other part is part B, because when you try to kidnap me in Oklahoma and I fucking shoot you, the judge's gonna let me go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
because I have stand my grandma and I don't know who the fuck you are, and you just try to kidnap me, or I know you're an ICE agent and you have no authority over me.
Yeah.
You ain't grabbing me, fuck shooting you. I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody wants to do that. I can guarantee you these Minnesotans don't want to be standing out there fucking with you. And then I will tell you, you murdered that lady.
Yes.
100.
I have watched 80 videos from 12 different angles. You murdered that woman.
Yep.
You murdered that one. Now, I will buy into, did go through some traumatic injury from getting drugged by a car, right? It happened. Guess what?
Did it?
Not
Did
our
it? Because
fucking.
now they're saying that he was hospitalized and
No, not
he
that.
sustained
It's
internal bleeding
Yeah.
from the altercation. So if that if that's what happened there, then what's
okay, fair.
30
Fair.
stitches and he was drugged 400 feet?
No, okay,
What
so fair.
what
But
translation is that?
let's say it did happen. My point is, let's say it did. Let's say it's
Sure,
100% true. I feel you
sure.
that it could be fake. Let's say it's 100% true. You're not qualified to be on the front line then if you have that level of PTSD.
Yeah.
Exactly right. You're
Because
supposed to go
if
through a
if you
level of
pray,
counseling. You have to be cleared by a department psychologist in order to get your weapon back, much less your badge.
yeah, if you're that afraid to react like that to someone who's pulling away after you told them to, because the direction of her tires were, it wasn't towards you, it was away from you. If you're that afraid that you had to do that, you're just a pussy with a gun.
Yeah.
But that's what they are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've ultimately come to in the past year, one evident, very, very evident truth has bubbled to the surface. One that I didn't originally see. This MAGA core overwhelmingly are the most insecure, afraid,
Yeah.
scared, beta, got picked on, bullied little boys I have ever seen, I have ever met. You are so afraid of the fucking boogeyman. And it's to me, and I got some traditional issues that maybe I need to work out or some toxic masculinity. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. But to me, I have no respect for men like that.
Yeah.
I can't, you're weak. And you're using your weakness to attack Americans. I don't use my strength to attack them. I don't use my. I'm not. They're the people in Minnesota minus. There's fucking wackadoos out there that do dumb shit. Okay, it does happen. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
there's protesters out there that do dumb shit, like break into the car and steal the lockbox full of arms. Because I saw that on the video. It really had. Because the left's like that didn't
Attack
happen. No,
Kyle Rittenhouse.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, attacking dude who has an ale with a skateboard because
With
that's
the
gonna
skateboard.
work.
Yeah.
So they do exist, but the overwhelming majority of the people out there are nonviolent.
Yeah.
They're using
Well,
their voice and they're using their
right before he
presence.
shot her, she said, "I'm not mad at you, bro."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you, bro. And you murdered her in cold blood. And then what you said earlier, I think, is very true to be brought up now in a certain sect of these weak imbeciles. You already saw what happened.
Yeah.
You want it to happen again? We already got one of you. What do you want the war? Do you want the war where you don't want the war? I don't want the war. I don't want the war
They
for
want the
varying
war.
reasons.
They want the
They're
war.
yeah,
That's why they're
but
doing
not
this.
the part of them who will actually fight it. There is a percentage of that base that isn't those men. They are rugged. Like, okay, here I'll lay it out, and this is all respect, all respect. The lower your ASVAB score, the more likely you're going to be a Marine.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
like that's just reality, right?
The lower your
So
ASVAB score, the more likely you are to be infantry.
correct. Then we move to that, right? Like it's right? So there's a reality to it. There's a lot of people who join the military, and I have respect for anyone who served this country. I truly do. But there's a lot of people who join the military because they are fully aware that they're way too fucking stupid to do anything else. And they have to do something with their lives and they want to provide and they want to do. And I respect that. That's a choice. Thank you for doing that. You know what I'm saying? However, there is a group of them that are in the mega base that they would be a fucking problem if the war happened because they know how to do one thing well and one thing only, and that's kill.
Yeah.
And that's why you're first one's in, last one's out for a reason because you're fucking psychotic.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a very interesting thing, but a majority of you are not. You're fat, overweight, insecure white men.
I'm that too. Oh,
Okay,
not
I'm
but
not insecure.
I'm not insecure. I'm fat too, and I'm good with it, bro, because my fat is actually security. I got secure enough and successful enough that I was
Yeah.
allowed to get fat. I ain't have to be pretty anymore. I was already funny. Now I
When were
got
you
money.
pretty?
Huh?
I would
When
like
were
No,
to
you
that's what I'm
pretty?
saying. Well, never prettier, prettier. So with hair.
had to piggyback.
So, but yeah, that's my big thing is I can't handle the assault on the American citizen.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree. We don't, but we cannot do this. And then I will close it with this. 2 nights ago, Joe Rogan called ICE the Gestapo
Yeah.
and said we can't be fucking doing this
He
shit.
had to turn to 180 on everything.
He didn't turn a 180. He saw what was happening and said, "This ain't it."
Right.
And I can't be. He didn't foresee this.
Yeah.
He also thought we're going to go get the drug dealers
Right.
and the criminals and the this, or maybe Joe Rogan is also not smart. I don't know. He talks
He
well. I like
definitely
it. He
he
talks
could have been
well.
infantry.
He was, yeah, he's a comedian. He's funny. I don't hate his podcast. I don't hate him, but at least he came out and openly said, what you're doing, we can't fucking do that. And he also said, you murdered that one.
Yeah.
What they are doing is guaranteeing that they're going to lose elections.
Did you hear what he said today?
Probably something fucking stupid.
He said that we should have the midterm election this year.
Yep. And why? I've
Because they're
done
going to
such a
get
good
fucking
job. We shouldn't even
destroyed.
have an election.
Because they're going to get fucking destroyed. And I think he's legitimately afraid. And there was a period of time where we were going to win. You know, we were going to win the midterms, but I thought you guys might be a little crazy saying we were going to win by margins big enough to make him go away. But I think there's been 2 or 3 major events in the murder of Renee Good. And I think the murder of Renee Good is going to become a George Floyd like
Yes.
walking point
Yeah.
into the summer.
She will be
A martyr.
Martyr. Yeah.
She ends up becoming a martyr.
Which,
And you,
go ahead, finish.
no, I'm here.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, one of the last things I want to say before we log off is, and I know, Josh, you had said something to someone on one of the articles that Wayne had posted, and I also responded to him is a lot of them are saying a lot of the same things they were saying back with George Floyd is, I guess they should have followed instructions. Well,
Yep.
something like that, saying she should have followed instructions is like saying Charlie Kirk should have ducked.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I said that.
And I just want to say she didn't have to follow instructions.
Correct.
She was being given instructions by a legal authority that had no legal authority over her because she was not currently in the process of breaking the law.
Yep. Well, she was stopped in the middle of a street.
If you look at the before videos, there's only a few of them that exist. A car was broke down in front of her, which is why she was stopped in the middle of the street. And then they just kind of surrounded her. No, I'm not saying she wasn't there to be an agitator because she was.
No.
I'm not saying she wasn't there for that. She was, but in the time you were confronting her, she had not broken any laws.
Yeah.
So you had no right to detain her. You had no right to tell her to step out of her vehicle, and you definitely had no right to surround her with weapons. You know what? If you surround me with weapons, I'm probably going to pull away too.
Right.
and I have weapons, and I'm still not going to take on 8 people. So I'm good. I'm not that good. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, but they made her a martyr, and we all knew it would come here. A year ago, we started this podcast, and numerous times throughout our first season, I brought up the parallels of the rise of the Third Reich because it's my favorite time in history, and I have studied it so deeply. And now we have reached where we are seeing much smaller events, but Crystal Knock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Renee Good is Crystal Knock. Like you killed an American citizen over deporting people, and you're mainly deporting people who have just worked jobs and been here. The amount of criminals they've deported is almost lower in percentage the amount of citizens they've detained.
Yeah.
So there
And
was the
the and the
video.
and the fact that they're, the where they're targeting schools, hospitals, courthouses, job sites. Like
Yeah.
Like what the fuck are you doing, bro? You're going after the kids
right.
and the
Yeah.
workers. So, but no, definitely an interesting, good welcome back, everybody. So we're excited that you're here. We're excited that we came back. We're still morons. It's fine. And stop killing American citizens. Stop fucking with
And
American
for
citizens.
the ICE agent that murdered her, that pooling of blood in your pelvic region that you went to the hospital for, tampons fix that just fine.
Damn, he didn't go to no fucking hospital for that shit. They knew they fucked up.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
You
knew
know,
They
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 need
fucked
they
up.
needed
have
to
to have
they need
medical
a paper trail.
bypass
Yeah,
all the
for sure.
criticism they were getting.
Oh yeah, they knew. They knew in that moment. That phone call happened immediately.
Yeah,
Oh, it only took them five
Uh,
days to
put
say, "Oh,
investigation
he
into it,
had internal bleeding."
another cover up.
5 days. Oh, we
Yeah.
didn't know that. So, but we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat place. Bluebird on your shoulder. We back, y'all.
Thanks
Yep.
for coming.